Good evening. Hope everybody is doing well. Switched it up a little bit for the intro. Had an interesting incident overnight with our other intro, and it's kind of humorous in all reality. But I'm not gonna push my luck. Switch it up a little bit. I'm actually probably going to be doing that video, getting that done for that intro, because I'd wanted to, and I just never have gotten around to it. And I'll work on it. I'll put some time into it here and there as I can. Trying to think, no real big, super big updates today. As far as like we're concerned, sorry, there's a whole hell of a lot of updates, but not as far as we're concerned. I have quite a few links open to talk to you about, and I meant yesterday to talk to you about our shopping experience, and I don't know what everybody else is saying. We shop a little bit differently than normal people. At least I assume that way. We do our shopping. We use the Walmart pickup thing, so we do all our shopping online and then just pick it up. However, and we do like one big trip a month and get most of it, and we might have to go back and get something small later on in the month sometimes. However, the last 2 months, they've been out of the 5-pound bags of chicken. So frozen, I'm sorry, I should be a little more specific. Frozen boneless chicken breast, you know, the cheap, great value or whatever brand. Completely out of them. Now, they've had the smaller size bags, but not the 5-pound size bags. The month before that, which would be 3 months ago, they didn't have, let's see, what was it? Yeah, they didn't have any of the regular. They had some other kind, but it was, they called it something different. I don't know if it was tenders they called it or something like that, but I don't know if it said organic or what, but they were more expensive, and they only had like I guess it was 2 or 2.5 pound bags or something like that. And to me, they didn't seem any more special than the cheap ones. So chicken apparently is becoming an issue. At least it is here. The other things that I had noticed when I did the shopping was they had no chili, because we do eat a fair amount of chili. I love chili. And they had none of the big, I believe it is 40-ounce cans. All they had was the smaller cans of chili beans. So, gosh, I know there's big stuff, or relatively big stuff. And now I'm drawing a blank. That's nice. There was a number of things though that they simply didn't have. Oh, here's one that was interesting. So I get these little. They come in like little 4 cups in a pack of nacho cheese, and then I get these little bitty round tortillas, right? Tortilla chips, sorry. And I enjoy those. And so I went to go get my stash, and they would only allow me 1 bag of those chips. I normally get 2. And they would only allow me 1 bag of those chips. So I thought that was interesting as well. Trying to think, it seems like there was other stuff too that I really had. You know, I had to get creative more or less when I did the shopping. But I mean, we got it taken care of. But I think that goes to show that, you know, I might even be a month off or so But I was saying last month, it was going to be the shortages and stuff was going to be inescapable, and maybe that's going to be more this month. I am well known for being a little early on my calls. It's certainly not looking good. Whether it be coming from a supply angle of it or an inflation angle of it, which is another thing, the prices were just stupid, absolutely stupid in comparison. It's really getting nuts, and I don't I know that I think it was today there was some folks that met to talk about the inflation and all that. I know that I'm trying to think of who it was. I know the Fed chair had just recently spoke on it. Look, it's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. And at the rate things look, oil is being now predicted to go up to $150 a barrel, possibly. That would be insane. That would be insane. But I think we're going to see it. I think we're going to see a lot of insanity, and I just hope folks are ready for it. It's not going to be pretty. Let's see. Thought there was one more off story I had. One moment. Maybe not. I've got some crazy news on the war front as per the title of the show. So, we will get to that. I've got, I believe, 2 here on COVID. Yeah. And then one that doesn't involve Russia, but yet on the war front. And I'm not even talking about China. So, lovely. So, let me bring the web view up. Let me get a sip of coffee and maybe a vape, or... It's my Friday. I'm gonna relax. What? Oh, I got huffed at. I'm gonna take all night to do the show if I want. All night, real slow. The dog's a trip. So anyway, let me get you over to the web view here. U.S. to toughen travel rules over Omicron fears. So we're already gonna do that. They actually already started doing that right from the get-go, but they're gonna expand that. And Biden had a meeting today. Not a meeting, a press conference, whatever the hell. I mean, does it even matter how we say anything anymore with Biden as our leader? I could come out here and mumble and it would be acceptable. But today he claimed that there are no more mandates. That's done and over. Essentially, he had claimed that. I don't think he actually really gave us his word. He more or less talked, from what I saw, about being threatened from Republicans that they wouldn't pass his whatever through if he was going to seek more mandates. So from my understanding, I don't know that there's a mandate that's up and going right now. Obviously, the employer mandates stopped. The healthcare mandate, from my understanding, was stopped. The federal employee mandate, from my understanding, was stopped. And now I'm pretty sure that that one cat, the doctor, I'm having brain farts from hell tonight. You can't go on YouTube without seeing the guy's name. I'm trying to think. I think his name's Sean or something. I don't know. All I got to do is scroll for probably about 2 seconds and I'll see a video from him. Sean Baker, MD. I believe he put a video up earlier. Well, I've got his face right here. Let me take a look. He put up a video earlier, right here, titled Federal Judge Slaps Down Military Vaccine Mandate. Now, I didn't watch that particular video. However, going by the title, I would assume, and I don't know that I saw this in the headlines. I don't believe that I ran across it in headlines. But that's what he's saying, is that a judge had slapped down the military mandate. So, if I'm not mistaken, that's all of them. Now, mind you, that's on a federal level. So, states and even private industry, private corporations, whatever, they've got their own policies. But as far as the federal government and Biden's mandates, from my understanding, every one of them are null and void at this moment. So that's a good thing. On the same token, and I'd say we have to be very watchful. Germany is about to start imposing sweeping curbs on unvaccinated. Pardon me. It says here, Germany's caretaker government will impose harsh curbs on unvaccinated citizens in an attempt to rein in soaring COVID-19 infections and ease substantial pressure on hospitals as fears grow about the Omicron variant. Now, I've got something to say about this fears grow. During Biden's little talk today, and I forgot to mention this earlier, this was one of the notable things. So he was talking about how 30-something% of the population is still unvaccinated, and that his advisors, or something to the effect of his advisors, have told him that some, or maybe even he said many, I don't know, of those people, of that 30%, have decided to get vaccinated because of the new variant. So, one of the things he talked about wanting to do was expand outreach and expand the ability, as far as like locations and stuff like that, to be able to get the vaccine. And I'm thinking to myself, nowhere have I heard or seen or anything remotely that there are queue lines at these vaccination centers for, where people are waiting all day in line and can't get in to get it. I've not heard anything about this, so I'm a little confused as to why they need more locations if everybody that wants one is good. This stuff concerns me. Now, on the same token, I'm sure you probably heard through the interwebs somewhere that they're working on some type of, and I'm going to screw up the name, a health pass. Can I just call it what it is? It's some type of infrastructure, blah, 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 blah. I don't remember the name of the damn thing. I'm telling you, I'm having brain farts from hell tonight. But what it's essentially going to do is give, what was it, the CDC, the ability to track our vaccination records. And they pretty much kind of made it sound limited to that, but you and I both know. And so that way, supposedly, they could track us. And like I say, let's just pull all the BS off of it. The health pass. That's what it is. It's laying the groundwork for the health pass. See, they have to get all that information and data together on a database and get it all centralized. Get the software going for the data, and then wham, they would at a whim be able to tell your vaccination status in the very least. In the very least, I beg to differ. I think it'd be your entire medical record will be on that whatever type of identification that they require you carry. I know that sounds strange, probably. That sounds far-fetched. But I see it coming. Now, I've been warning about the Real ID Act for a long time. I caught it when they started talking about it again and calling it the Real ID Act. See, before that, many times they attempted something called the National ID Act, and the National ID Act couldn't get anywhere because it scared the hell out of people when they heard it. And they spoke up. And nobody was willing to push it through. But they kept trying, and they kept trying, and they kept trying, and eventually they called it, and they've called it a number of things, but they called it the Real ID Act. And I'm assuming that sounded benign enough that it didn't perk anybody's ears. Now, I was raising hell. I was jumping up and down raising hell. Because I knew what it was. And I was just a, crazy loon tinfoil hat dude. All of this is going to come together. This health pass thing and your Real ID and those fusion centers that you heard about a long time ago, all that's coming together. And I can assure you that one ID is going to be your one everything. Literally, your one everything. That's going to be how you do transactions, money transactions. It's going to be everything. How you enter places, how you're able to go places, train, plane, automobile, state borders. I really do honestly see as having checkpoints. We'll see. I want to be wrong on this stuff. But I've sat there for decades now. Decades. And watching them put this stuff together. Well, I say I'm not a Johnny-come-lately. I wasn't. Let me, before we go on with the news, let me give you an example of who the Watchman was at a younger age, much younger age. The first time that I got pulled over, the very numero uno time, I got pulled over because, what I was doing was I just got off of work and I was taking my coworker home. I told her I'd give her a ride. Hey, give me an excuse to drive, right? And so it was night, late, not like overnight, but maybe, 10, 11, something like that. We just got off work at Hardee's. And the road that I turned down was, it was a country road, and it was a road very well known for partying. I could tell you the names that the road's been called, but none of them are good. The names didn't indicate anything about partying, it more dating, but we'll leave that at that. And anyway, I turned on that road, and the moment that I turned on that road, cherries lit up behind me. I'm thinking, what the hell? I wasn't doing nothing. My car's not loud. I broke no laws. And so I stop. The officer walks up to the car and starts playing a game of 20 questions with me. Now, I don't know if you've ever lived with somebody that's worked at a fast food restaurant or anything like that, but there's some pretty key things. When they come home from work, you're going to smell the restaurant they just came from on them. Pretty easy observation, and I do believe law enforcement is supposed to be observant. So here you have two humans in the front seat of an automobile that clearly, they can smell weed a mile away. They couldn't smell a cheeseburger. So we clearly had and we were in our uniforms, name tags, whole 9 yards, probably even had my stupid cap on. And we clearly just got off work. I had to sit there because of this officer's curiosity and yank everything out of my he yanked everything out of my car, because my car, I had a bunch of car parts, tools, all kinds of stuff in the back. Both the hatchback and the back seat area, yanked everything out of my car to search for, I don't know, because I didn't have anything in there. I got off for work. I was taking my coworker home. And I raised hell about it. Because there was nothing. I guarantee. And yeah, I smoked weed back then. But I didn't have any that night. And it's not like I had just started driving the car. So it's not like I'd smoked out in it for the last 3 weeks and it reeked. No, I don't even think I ever even smoked in the car. Weed anyway. I smoked cigarettes at the time. But anyway, that pissed me off. Because after he got done digging through my entire car and putting everything out on a dark country road, and decides to let me go because I didn't do anything wrong, I had to sit there in the dark because I had no way to see and put all that crap back in my car. And I was pissed. I was raising hell. I knew what my constitutional rights were, and I knew that they had been insanely violated, and I raised hell. So I've kind of been on this for a little while, is my point. Not a Johnny-come-lately when it comes to what our rights are, what the government's been doing. At that same time I started driving was when the car insurance mandates went into place, and I was raising hell about that. Because why? Just like health insurance that they were trying to get away with doing, that was mandating you buy a product, and the government does not have the right to do that. Car insurance mandates are unconstitutional, just as much as health insurance mandates are. I've been raising hell since they started doing pre-employment drug tests, and no, not because I like to smoke weed. I'm sure that was part of it, but it's none of their damn business what I do on the weekends on my own time. I'm there to work. Now, unless I get hurt or do something that causes them to think I'm on some kind of drugs, or, show some kind of, or do some kind of thing to be guilty for, why in the hell are you accusing me before I even start to work for your company? This is ridiculous. And I bitched and screamed about that as they were starting to do that, as companies were starting to make that policy. And then it went further. Then it got to the bank accounts. Now they do credit checks on you. You're going to go there for employment. You know, how much of our lives are we going to just hand over to just anybody? Just so that we can make means. Now, they want you to hand over your medical decisions. I hope to hell that the people of this country have finally found a line in the sand. Because I've been fighting my damn line ever since I was 17 years old. Yeah, not 16, 17. Unlike most kids, I didn't get my driver's license when I was 16. I could have, but I didn't give a damn. I was going to be a rock star. I didn't need a driver's license. True story. Kind of. Anyway. So yeah. Craziness in Germany. Craziness in Austria. I'm sure soon to be here. Need to switch gears and get on this other subject because, for one, some of you probably tuned in for that subject. And all right, I'm going to start out with this, though. It's not dealing with Russia per se, but U.S. and South Korea announced new war plans for potential North Korean conflict. So we're not just poking Putin. We're going after North Korea as well. It's titled here, or it said here, Washington and Seoul agreed on Thursday to update their joint war plans and maintain the current number of U.S. troops in South Korea in response to a potential North Korean threat. In a press conference on Thursday, U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin said the two nations had discussed a wide range of topics, including our unity in the face of the threat from North Korea and our progress in our bilateral alliance readiness and training exercises. Claiming the alliance contributes to stability in the region, Austin said that they had reaffirmed their shared assessment that the DPRK is continuing to advance its missile and weapons programs, which is increasingly destabilizing for regional stability. The U.S. will maintain its presence of around 28,500 troops in South Korea, with the nation's defense minister, Soo Wook, saying that the two had discussed the transfer of operational control to Korean authorities. The new document for wartime operation plans, the Strategic Planning Guidance, seeks to update the strategy for curbing a North Korean threat after critics claim prior plans were outdated in the wake of the country's expanding technology. So, my point being here, when it comes to being concerned with this, is I think if there was a rogue country, in other words, a country to do a rogue attack, we're talking something like a shipping container in the Gulf or something like that, I think it would be North Korea that would do it. I don't see China doing that. I don't see Russia doing that. They don't need to. They've got the capability to put a dent in us from afar. North Korea would have to get in a good one on us, because North Korea wouldn't have enough missiles to be able to throw enough of an onslaught of them at us that we couldn't swat them out of the air. However, they might be able to sneak a low-yield weapon in close and get an EMP. Hell, they might be able to get one in from North Korea for an EMP. That's a little more doubtful. But nonetheless, they have the technology. They know how to do it. They've, how long ago was it that I did the report on how they're increasing their ability to miniaturize? I had to think of how to word it to make the devices smaller, which is huge. That's monumental when it comes to this. So they've already got that ability. There's any country to be concerned of a rogue attack like an EMP, I think North Korea is the one to be concerned with. Now, this happened today during a meeting between Blinken and Lavrov. As the headline says here, lights go out at diplomatic meetings with Blinken and Lavrov. And it says, simply a meeting between U.S. and Ukrainian diplomats was thrown into darkness as the U.S. Secretary of State started to speak. A similar incident took place later as Russian and Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe reps spoke. A meeting room hosting American and Ukrainian diplomats was suddenly plunged into darkness on Wednesday as U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken began his remarks to his Ukrainian counterpart Dmitry Kuleba. Blinken was in the midst of reassuring Kuleba of Washington's unwavering commitment to Ukrainian sovereignty when the lights went out. Their meeting was set to take place on the sidelines of the OSCE conference in Stockholm. A similar blackout seized the room later that day as Russian Foreign Ministry Sergei Lavrov spoke with OSCE Secretary General Helga Schmid and other officials. Lavrov suggested the problem was caused by an official brushing up against the light switch with their rear end. You caught that, right? Blinken is reportedly expected to pile on further threats of sanctions against Russia on Wednesday should Moscow not cease troop maneuvers along the country's own border with Ukraine, while Kiev has complained of Russia's recent military maneuvers, claiming some 90,000 soldiers are conducting exercises near the border the two states share. Moscow has argued that it has the right to deploy troops, however it wishes, inside its own country. Back to the lighting situation. There's a lot of stuff that I see, different news outlets, mainly alternative, where they'll pick out this thing, that thing, every little minuscule thing and make it sound, I don't know, fantastical, if I can make a word. This doesn't sound, this sounds intentional to me. I'm not thinking that this was so much an accident or a bad switch. I think this was a hint. I really do. I wanted to throw that out there before I started on the chain of events throughout today. I wanted to throw that out there first. I just thought that was very peculiar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through these headlines as I shared them out throughout the day. I can't promise you that the stories actually happened in this exact order, but I'm trying to keep the timeline consistent because there's a lot of moves being made. And this is happening very, very quickly. And I'm telling you, I would be paying attention to what's going on with this. It is not good. Let me have a sip of coffee. U.S. reveals response to a Russian invasion of Ukraine. Here it says, if Russia uses its military against Ukraine, Moscow will see a response from the U.S. and its NATO partners unlike anything ever experienced before. including unprecedented sanctions, Washington threatened on Wednesday. Okay? Wednesday. Today the lights went out during a meeting. Speaking via video link at the Kiev Security Forum, U.S. Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs Victoria Nuland reiterated the American government's support for the former Soviet Republic. We are resolute in sending the message to Moscow that if it moves again to internally destabilize Ukraine or use these forces to enter the country, that it will be met with a high-impact economic measures, the likes of which we have not used before, from all of NATO, she stressed. Okay, so I just kind of wanted to give you a little bit of a foundation what that was about. Here it says Russia says military action in Ukraine highly likely. Now, how more straightforward can you get than that? This says the risk of an all-out armed conflict in southeastern Ukraine is extremely high and is becoming a matter of grave concern for Russia, Moscow has cautioned, as international tensions heighten over the war-torn Donbass region. Speaking to reporters on Thursday, Kremlin Press Secretary Dmitry Peskov said that the probability of hostilities in Ukraine is still high when asked about the likelihood of a war in the country's east. This is a matter of particular concern and worry for us, he added. Peskov's remarks come a day after Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman alleged that Kiev was significantly beefing up its military force in the region by pulling heavy equipment and personnel into the area. According to some reports, the number of troops in the conflict zone already reaches 125,000 people, Maria Zakharova said on Wednesday. So another thing that's being pulled into all of this and the reason why I say that is because it's another landing pad, as I call them. It's another place for, a country to put military bases and forces and all kinds of goodies. Belarus could take major steps towards integration with Russia, Lukashenko claims. This says here Moscow and Minsk could decide to be bound by a single currency in an effort to boost trade and strengthen ties between the two members of the so-called Union State, Belarus embattled leader Alexander Lukashenko has said. Speaking about the prospects of economic integration in an interview with RIA Novosti published on Wednesday, Lukashenko said, "There is the Russian ruble. Everyone wants a single currency." According to him, a past agreement with former Russian Boris Yeltsin said that if the two countries shared a currency, it wouldn't be the Belarusian ruble or the Russian ruble, but a different third currency. But seeing as we have the ruble and you have the ruble, why make something up and call it something else, or what have you? Yes, it will be the ruble. We'll have to get to the currency step by step, he added. So this is talking a lot about their currencies. However, they are also talking about Putin putting missiles in Belarus. So I'm sure you can connect the dots. Let's see. Peace plan for Donbass is a lost cause, says Moscow. Here it says Kiev is making the prospect of a peace deal in the east of Ukraine increasingly difficult. Moscow has warned as Washington urges the Eastern European country, to implement a previously agreed deal to bring an end to the conflict. Addressing senators during a government hour session on Wednesday, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov blasted the neighboring nation as a lost cause. According to him, authorities in Kiev are becoming more and more insolent with its aggressiveness towards the Minsk agreements toward Russia and in its attempts to provoke the West into supporting its militant aspirations. Speaking earlier in the same day, during an interview in Latvia, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said his country remains optimistic that current tensions around Ukraine could be settled by implementing the agreement, which was signed in 2014 after a summit in the Belarusian capital. So, I told you, Belarus is tied up in all of this just as much as the rest. Let's see. Soviet Union could invade Ukraine. Pentagon chief claims. Have another set. Actually working through these fairly quicker than I thought I would. Let's see. Soviet Union could invade Ukraine. Oh, I read the headline, sorry. Despite the Soviet Union having collapsed around 3 decades ago, the hammer and sickle could soon be flying back over Ukraine. America's top military official appears to have suggested amid claims about a Russian attack. Speaking on Thursday during a visit to South Korea, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin demanded Moscow pull back its military from its Ukrainian frontier or face the hardest round of sanctions ever imposed. When asked about which form of the embargoes will take, he said that the best methods will be used and that whatever we do will be done as part of an international community. The best case, though, is that we won't see an incursion by the Soviet Union into the Ukraine, the high-ranking official said, mistakenly referring to Russia as the former USSR, the collective of 15 republics that ceased to exist in 1991. What that was likely an insult, is what it likely was, not an accident. But anyway, we got this. I've saved the doozy for last, and we're almost there. NATO broke promises in the past. Any new deals need to be legally binding, says Moscow. So, just a couple paragraphs here I'll read. NATO continues to stir up tensions with Russia while refusing to work on resolving outstanding issues, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has claimed, reiterating Moscow's calls for a comprehensive international security agreement. Russia's top diplomat touched upon the rocky relationship of the U.S.-led alliance as he spoke after a ministerial meeting of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe on Thursday. NATO continues to escalate the situation right on our borders. NATO refuses to consider our proposals to defuse tensions and prevent dangerous incidents, Lavrov said, adding that such an attitude not only poses a threat to Russia's security, but also inevitably affects the OSCE's work. So, again, diplomatically, it is an absolute nightmare. Militarily, we are seeing a whole lot of stuff be moved on both sides of the fence. There, Ukraine and Russia. And the U.S., from my understanding, is really helping Ukraine out, if you know what I mean. This isn't going to be good. And I do believe that conflict in that area at this point is pretty inevitable. This is definitely something we need to pay attention to. Russia deploys coastal missile system in Pacific. For the first time, Russia has deployed the Bastion missile system on the island of Mantua in the Pacific Ocean. The country's armed forces revealed on Thursday. Bastion is a mobile defense system that can attack surface ships. Mantua is an inhabited landmass near the center of the Kuril Islands. After World War II, it became under the control of the Soviet Union. Before that, it was home of a large Japanese base. It is now the focus of Russian efforts to boost military presence in the Pacific. The crews of the coastal mission system Bastion, for the first time, took over duty on the island of Mantua. Oh, that's So I was reading the wrong thing. The Bastion mobile coastal system is armed with the Onyx supersonic self-propelled anti-ship missile. It is designed to destroy surface ships of all types. Writing on his Telegram channel, war correspondent Alexander Kotz described the island of Mantua as having nothing but the Saber-Wielding volcano, foxes, and mice. Nonetheless, right now it's just anti-ship missiles. And I get it. I mean, if you look at the proximity, if you look at where it's at on the map, I get it. That's, that makes perfect sense. But I have a feeling there's going to be quite a bit in that area before it's all said and done. They're building up. Nations are building up their militaries, their equipment. Countries are choosing sides. We're watching it all happen right in front of our faces. Make sure you're getting ready. I don't know what the hell is going to hit us first. This is, going through the headlines anymore is just absolutely mind-blowing. It's hard to keep up through the day. I try not to let too many headlines get backed up. It's kind of hard not to do that. I mean, when you check and in an hour's time, you've got, another 10, 12, 15 headlines to go through. I'm not saying that I'm sitting there breaking a sweat reading headlines and poor pity me. I'm just saying it's a lot of damn news. That's a lot of damn news. And there's a lot of this stuff that I dig a little bit deeper into. I don't just, I don't typically just read the articles here. Depending on what the article is about, I might spend a half an hour or however long looking into stuff related to it. Just, that's my job. I don't want to come out here and just feed you a bunch of crap. I want to have a good foundation of what it is that I'm talking about. I'm concerned. I am absolutely concerned. And at this particular moment in time, my biggest concern, honestly, is war. It really, truly is. I mean, I get we've got our own government doing some really crazy stuff right now. Oops. But we've also got our citizens that, in my opinion, have been doing a fairly good job of standing up to it. So, I'm not so concerned about here at the moment. Because it does seem that the American people are making their, not with the Biden administration. I'm not going by that. They're off in their own world. But to like state governments and stuff like that, most of them are starting to get the picture. They're starting to back off their rhetoric a little bit. Most, not all. Some states, as you know, didn't even start. So, when I look at everything, all the threats that we have before us, war is certainly the most prominent. Right now, it's starting to get a little stupid. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. I'll try to keep you updated the best I can. It has really, that's been the majority of the headlines, as you can tell. I'm not just picking out the headlines that do a conflict. I could have picked out more COVID headlines. If I really wanted to, I could have. But I know you guys are tired of hearing about COVID. I'm tired of hearing about COVID. And most of it's just the same stuff over and over and over. So you're welcome. But other than that, This was, that the situation going on between Russia and Ukraine and the U.S. and all that, it's dominating the news. Maybe not, I'm not talking about mainstream news in the United States. And I get RT is who I largely follow. But there are a lot of other publications that are covering a lot of this stuff too. They're just not really putting it out there and putting a focus on it. One of those deals where they make a mention of it and that's it. So anyway, I have a couple of vapes here. I deserve them. I'm entitled to them. Oh, fun times. All right. Have to deal with the problem of too much blood in my nicotine system. All right. Reckon we can do some headlines and got one from last night that I put out. 1,000 plus U.S. troops to deploy for Africa. New York Times faults cats for aiding misinformation. That's right, it's the cat's fault. Actually, I think because, I'm assuming, memes and stuff. I don't know. Stupidity. CIA hushed up own child sex crimes, newly released documents reveal. No, they wouldn't do something like that. Never. Nor would they spend American tax dollars on hookers and blow. No, they would never do that. U.S. and South Korea announced new war plans for potential North Korean conflict. Sorry, I read that one. I try to avoid reading the things I've already covered. Saves a little bit of time going through the headlines. EU explains where Belarus border refugees can claim asylum. Russia detains suspected Ukraine spies. Vice President Harris' top aide to quit the White House. This is a ton of individuals that have quit. I wouldn't know why. Such a great administration to work for. Omicron forces cancellation of ISU Grand Prix final in Japan. Belarus will vote on new constitution in February 2022, says Lukashenko. Car bomb set off in daring jailbreak, says the media. That was central Mexico, not Chicago. That'll happen next week. Wall Street Bank predicts $150 a barrel oil. That's what I was telling you earlier. WHO questions UK booster vaccine policy. Norway's Christmas gift to Londoners leaves some perplexed. Wow. U.S. reveals response to I think I covered that one. Prime Minister flip-flops on Omicron travel after vacation uproar. That's the Israeli Prime Minister. I covered that. Trigger for AstraZeneca jab blood clots discovered. So they're claiming to know what triggers the blood clots. Austrian ex-Chancellor Kurz quits politics. Macron labels Johnson a clown, says the media. Let's see. Russia warns about nightmare scenario of military confrontation in Europe. Did I do that headline or did I miss that one? I might have missed that when I was putting them up. I'm not sure. UN rejects envoys from 2 state players. Ditching green, new Cold War, U.S. constitutional crisis, Saxo Bank's predictions for 2022. A pretty crazy article. It's where I got obviously the thumbnail image. I thought that was, cool looking. I don't know why I like stuff like that. One day I'm probably going to regret that, but my ringtone on my phone is the emergency broadcast tone. Because I'm glutton for punishment. Capitol rioters manipulated by Trump. That's what the article says. UN wrong about world's first climate-induced famine, says a study. Iran threatens to crush America's teeth. Well, you don't have to work very hard for me there, buddy. Let's see. World Bank explains how Russia will fare in green energy age. Debt collectors receive extra tools from the government. Lovely. Virologist explains early signs of Omicron variant's weakness. Elbows no more. Lavrov and Blinken finally shake hands. How nice. Meanwhile, the United States and Russia are both amassing large amounts of troops and equipment. You want us to watch the handshake. Meghan Markle wins privacy battle over leaked letter. Belarus could take major step towards integration with Russia, Lukashenko claims. Israel's Supreme Court rules on phone spying case. Science Museum bows to trans criticism. Peace plan for cover that. Tokyo flats available to rent for $1, but there's a catch. Covered that. Surgeon fined for amputating the wrong limb. That happened in Austria, but it happens, from my understanding, way more than it should here. Musk suggests age limit for politicians. I think that's a good idea. Age limit and term limit. Omicron scare. Latest countries hit by new COVID strain. EU health watchdog gives prediction on Omicron spread. I know a lot of these headlines don't give you the information. I'm just kind of roughly giving you the idea. As I've said before, our Twitter account, that's where I post all this. So if you want to keep up throughout the day, that's the best way to do it. Whatever, I don't know, turn on notifications or whatever. I don't know. I don't know nothing about Twitter. I just tweet this crap out. Let's see. Russian monarch's vaccination letter sold. I think I read that. Sorry. I read that one, or talked about that one. Sterling Lads cartel banks fined $390 million. Which probably is a drop in the bucket compared to what they should have been nailed for. And people should have probably went to jail, which never seems to happen. Protesters demand Ukrainian president quit on day of planned coup. Covered that. Regulator rules on Santa's COVID passport ad. UK minister gears up against Christmas mistletoe. World's biggest Omicron outbreak suspected after a Christmas party. Let's see. Covered that. Saudis mounted covert campaign to kill UN Yemen vote, says the media. Poll finds how many Americans... Oh, I actually kind of covered that. I brought up the article earlier. Oh, well, I guess I should read the headline. Poll finds how many Americans feel inflation effects. I had that article up earlier to remember to talk about shopping. And then I forgot half of what I was going to tell you about the shopping. So... see how that works? UK minister says Boris Johnson is not a clown. So, we're 50-50 now. So, need another diplomat to weigh in and break the tie. 2 French police officers injured by saber-wielding assailant. Maybe you guys should ban sabers. New York police chief in standoff, or police chief, where'd I get chief from? New York police in standoff with gunmen at United Nations. Not sure what the deal was. I did check back on that to find out what happened with that. And the guy was allegedly suicidal. He allegedly had a shotgun and was holding it under his chin. And, clearly there was a standoff. And before all was said and done, I guess he wrote a message on a notepad or something, piece of paper. And I guess law enforcement ran it into the UN. And I guess once that was completed, once he got his message to the United Nations, he gave in. So, and they arrested him without incident. So, don't know. I really wished I knew what was on that note. I really wished I knew. I think, and they won't let us know. And the reason why is they claim, well, it would encourage it. Well, I can't say a whole hell of a lot about the United Nations aside from the fact they shouldn't even be here. But beyond that, this is the United States of America. And if somebody's got a grievance, they've got damn well a right to say so. And we damn well got a right to hear about it. That's how this country is supposed to work. Biggest aviation market allows troubled Boeing 737 MAX flights. Austria's Chancellor Schallenberg stepping down. Seems to have a lot of people stepping down over in Austria. I don't know why. Russia and OPEC agree to cooperate on crude supply. Treasury and Fed heads explain where the blame for inflation lies. U.S. second Omicron case comes from a New York City anime convention. And then I thought, oh yeah, this is Minnesota. Okay. Iran issues nuclear deal demands. I could cover that. Kremlin reveals agenda for talks between Putin and Biden. Biden's approval rating tumbles further. So, he's got to be in the negative by now. I mean, how do you even get that low? NATO broke promises in the past. Any new deals need to be... Oh, I covered that one. Sorry. Russian official reveals how long COVID-19 patients could be contagious. BuzzFeed employees walk out and blast rich executives. White House points to surprising cause of crime wave. They claim that it's the pandemic. Not anything to do with insane policies put in place by insane politicians. Couldn't possibly have anything to do with that. Mind you, it's those places with those insane politicians with those insane policies that are having the problems, largely. Most other places are not. I don't know. I can't figure it out. 400,000 patients info linked in Planned Parenthood ransomware hack. That was in from the Los Angeles branch. So, crazy. Report reveals scale of missing military munitions. Wait a minute. Where's my F-15, Joe? Damn it. France shoots down Britain's idea to fix channel migrant crisis. I'd actually probably try to start it up out on the street here and take off. Twitter purges thousands of state-linked accounts. Biden revives Trump-era policy. It jumped. Smollett defense target judge and mistrial request. Not surprised. I haven't been following that trial, but Capitol Riot Committee chief says pleading the Fifth Amendment suggests guilt. Wait a minute. Didn't we just have a court hearing with a young man named Rittenhouse? And didn't the prosecution question Rittenhouse's Fifth Amendment? And didn't the judge absolutely lose his mind over that for good cause? Well, now Benny Thompson of Mississippi has done that very thing. It's crazy. Oklahoma sues Biden and the Pentagon over vaccine mandate. And that is the rest of it. So anyway, I'm going to get the heck out of here and close this week up. I'm sure I'll probably have a report or two, or who knows, tomorrow. So keep an eye out. And regardless, Fridays and Saturdays that we don't have a show, I still tweet stuff out all throughout the day. So again, if you want the news as it comes out, or as I can put it out, that's where to get it. So anyway, I am out of here, and I appreciate you all coming. God willing, we'll be back Sunday night. We'll do it again. As always, God bless you. We love you. Be one with your spirit. And shalom.